How's your day been?
It's been good. How about yours?
Yeah, very nice as well. Um, didn't get good sleep, but got a leg day in, good breakfast.
Nice.
Just under the sun for a while. Um, what about you?
Yeah, just kind of got up, dropped my daughter off at work, and yeah,
Yeah,
just getting started.
love it, dude. So let's get into it. I want to start with your bio, which is tech vet turned to a health hacker. How come?
Yeah. Well, I think growing up, I was always into watching my dad experiment. So he was a
Really?
doctor. Yeah, he was a
Okay.
doctor and he was always a self-experimenter when that wasn't really popular. This is, during the 80s. But I always saw
Wow.
him, running experiments on himself. I remember the first memory I had, I walked into the bathroom and he was testing his urine pH.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was pretty interesting. Then in the 90s, I remember him running this experiment. It was at the time when we thought that like fat was the cause of high cholesterol. And so he
Mm-hmm.
did this experiment where he ate like 2 grams of fat for the entire month.
Okay.
And his
2 grams?
cholesterol actually 2 grams the entire month.
Okay.
Yeah. And so his cholesterol shot up.
Oh my God, that's nothing.
His skin was jaundiced.
Wow.
And so he kind of came away from that experiment saying there's nothing he could do to, impact his cholesterol. I came away from that experiment thinking, wow, fat is really important.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to that. So that's kind of how it started. But it really changed once my daughter was born. So I have an
Of
8-year-old
course.
daughter. And when she was born, I had her when I was 40. And I really started thinking seriously about, being able to live longer, being able to
Sure.
see her, get married, uh, if she chooses to do that, be able to walk her down the aisle, and be there. So that's, probably 8 years ago, I got really serious about it. And then about a year and a half ago, I got even more serious. And that was
Yes.
just kind of overcoming some issues with mold.
Okay. Where did you experience those issues with mode?
So I had an exposure, and it just the impact that I was experiencing was like pretty extreme depression,
Oh,
and
wow.
it took me a really long time to actually figure it out. But I remember
Right. Right.
my quality of life was so bad that one day I just sat down and thought about like all of the things. I made a list of all the things that I could possibly do to improve things.
Okay.
And one of those things was during COVID, I just stopped exercising as much, and so I knew that I needed to do that,
Sure.
and decided that I wanted to start running,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of hated running,
Mm-hmm.
and so I asked ChatGPT
Right. That's incredible.
to help me get addicted to running, and
Wow.
it actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing and kind of the relevant part of the story was it started with these very small steps. So the first suggestion wasn't to go for a run, it was actually to put my running shoes by the door. It was just like
Mm.
one small change. And the thinking was, the rationale from ChatGPT was, hey, if you just take this one small action, you're going to get started. And the second day
Sure.
was like putting an appointment to go running in my calendar. The third day was like, run around the block just for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those changes, those small changes just built up. I started running. I lost 26 pounds,
Wow.
and
And
I
how
started
long?
feeling, it was about like 3 months.
Wow. Wow.
And
Okay.
I just started feeling so much better. And it started to make me think, like what else could I do? And I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to change my body composition. I went to my friend's birthday party,
Wow.
and he was turning 57 at the time, so he was like 10 years older than me. And we had a mutual friend there, and he came up and he literally said, "Hey, Greg, do you want to get ripped?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that in the Fed.
And so I said, "Yes, actually, I do. That has been like next to my list."
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of started me down the weightlifting and body composition, recomposition path. And then through that, I just realized all of these other things that I needed to get dialed and could dialing in my nutrition even more, even though I'd always had pretty good nutrition. Yeah, so it just kind of sent me down this entirely new path. And then I ultimately found out I was mold, addressed that,
Right.
and feel a lot better.
Okay, so I have a couple things to unpack here. First of all, how did you link mold to your depression? How did that even?
I got really lucky. I feel like I got so lucky in this area because
Okay.
I reconnected with this doctor that had been seen prior, and we just reconnected as friends.
Okay.
But I told him that I was, struggling with depression. I couldn't figure out why, and he just suggested it. He's like, mold can be, a pretty big issue in Seattle. I think we should test you for it.
Whoa.
So it was just, really from his clinical expertise and seeing that in some of his other patients that just saved me. I just feel so lucky because it's one of those things that isn't really top of mind for a lot of practitioners.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Your dad running these experiments. What doctor was he? What?
He was an ophthalmologist.
Okay.
So he his specialty was like lots of eye surgeries. So he did what's called radial keratotomy, which is corrective vision before there were lasers, and they used to do it like manually with a scalpel. And would do lots of cataract surgeries and things like that. But he was just so studious, and I remember I would ask him questions about the body, and he'd be able to answer. And he's like, I can recall the page of the textbook that this is on. So just a really incredible and inspiring man to me. But it just has this incredible memory and just a really good thinker, always really fascinated with the body. He never really stopped studying, after he left medical school. So he was just like a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah,
And
that's incredible.
thinking back, he was so forward thinking for the time with doing some of the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah, I feel that's exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, I think it's a little bit rare. I'm not an expert on this, but I think it's rare that most experts in their fields, for example, an expert in ophthalmology will just go out and study something else, like doing some month-long experiments with fats and cholesterols. I mean, that's inspiring to say.
Yeah, it was certainly rare at the time.
Right.
And his knowledge acquisition, his desire for knowledge acquisition wasn't limited to just medicine. He was like a true Renaissance man. He would I remember he got a computer and wanted to teach himself how to program.
Wow.
And he was doing it in assembly, which is like the most complicated language at the time. I remember he woke me up at like 2 a.m. one night to show me this game that he finished.
No way.
And he was like really excited about it. So and then he did a lot of writing. Like he's had stuff published in the New Yorker and other magazines like that, just like creative writing that he did. So he was like, he really inspired me and kind of showed me, demonstrated that you can learn things on your own.
Wow.
That you don't need to go to school, that you can self-study.
I love that.
And learn things just by doing and practicing. So huge influence on me. Still is.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. Are you still enjoying running? Or are you
I stopped it. I stopped running when I started kind of the body recomposition. And instead was just doing like lots of walking, where you have like a higher percentage of fat oxidation.
Okay.
And then a little lower impact, so you can do it every day. But I still love it. I'll go for a run every once in a while and still really like it. At some point, I'd like to, incorporate that back in.
Love that.
And like do like a run, once a week or something like that. I think there's just something about running where, I don't know if you've experienced this, but just kind of getting into this meditative state that I feel like is somewhat difficult to replicate in other modalities.
I feel like that happens after the sucky part of running.
Yeah, yeah, you have to make it through that part where it's miserable.
That's why I don't run, man, because it
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah, it does.
Yeah,
But just on the other side of that is some awesomeness.
it is. It is. I remember probably around like a year ago, I wanted to start to get to like into running. I had planned to maybe run like half a marathon by the start of this year, but I was getting very hurt. I did enjoy these runs with my mom. She was like my coach. Um, but I just started seeing too many like negatives from that feeling that I left it behind.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're not alone.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I do want to add from this is kind of my takeaway from your journey because my parents are a little older than you, but they're around that age. And I just have a lot of people around your age. And something that I see repeat a lot, not with you, is that folks around these ages have almost a fear of their desire to change and transform, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like one, there's like this, let me find the word. It's it's like common in that age to think that first of all it's impossible, and second of all it's not time to do so anymore.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if what I'm making sense, if I make sense, you know, like you are living proof that that idea is gay as fuck, right?
Yeah, you can change it any age.
Yeah. So
You absolutely can.
what's the biggest takeaway of your transformation?
I think that it's possible.
Yes.
It's really, I think I was lucky. I was really lucky to have a friend who's 10 years older than me. His name
That's.
is PJ, and he is just a machine. He's just absolutely ripped. He used to be like top 30 tower runner in the world. And we've been
Wow.
friends for, almost 20 years. But I could see what he was doing. And I always wanted to picture myself being just as good a shape as him. To me, he was like, this is how you age well. So I think having that example for me was, really kind of game changing and made me realize that it was more about choice and more about, putting in the work. But there is, I think, there's a lot of entropy, especially as you
Yes.
get older, pulling you back. You tend to have more responsibility. Maybe you have kids, or maybe you're more responsibility at your job. And then also, I think that probably one reason why people may have a tendency to believe less in themselves as they get older is they've experienced failure, and so they've kind of lost trust in themselves
Okay.
to a degree. So maybe they've tried to lose weight on their own and they've failed, or something like that. So I think it's, can you carve out the time, and can you believe that you are worthy of the investment? Because if you don't believe that you are worthy of something better, I think it's hard to make a change in the first place.
Right. That's beautifully said.
The second thing is, I'm getting past this point of analysis paralysis, not taking action. And we have a tendency, I think I have this tendency sometimes, and I've heard it from a lot of other people, where you're kind of striving for perfection.
Right.
Instead of going to the gym or going for a run, it's like you want to know everything about it, or like get the perfect workout routine or anything like that. And I don't think that that's necessary. I think any action, for the most part, is going to be a lot better than no action. And taking, rather than trying to figure out the perfect running routine or exactly how you do it, I think just taking some small steps.
Right.
And if you can do that, you really get this, dopamine hit and this sense of satisfaction for making progress, however small.
Yes.
If you can do that one thing, then it's going to propel you to take another action.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give you another dopamine hit. And so it's really about how you get yourself into these positive feedback loops.
How you leverage them, huh?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that just comes down to making really small changes
Right.
and not trying to do everything at once. If you're not going to the gym, don't start going every day, because it's maybe not the most sustainable
Mm-hmm.
when you're first starting out. But you can go once per week. And even if it's 30 minutes, you're going to feel good about the fact that you did that.
Yeah.
And that's going to propel you forward.
Right. You're going to want to go again.
Yeah. So it's progress over perfection. It is believing that you're worth it. And I think the third thing is having a really high tolerance for forgiveness to yourself.
Wow. Okay.
Because when we start a lot of these programs, and we will have failures,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to be a voice inside everyone's head that's
Mm-hmm.
going to say, Alfonso, I told you you were going to fail. You should have done this in the first place. There's going to be this voice that's going to be telling you, all of these negative things.
Right.
And I think that if you can forgive yourself, it's like, yeah, I missed my workout today. No problem. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'll do it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I had that piece of pizza. I know that I shouldn't have had it. But that's okay. I'm going to get back on the train tomorrow. So the more that you can, I think, love yourself, accept yourself for who you are, and forgive yourself, the better odds of success you're going to have.
I love that. This high forgiveness tolerance is so overlooked, I think, for people who just want to grind it out. I love that.
Yeah.
Any action to no action. How did that mindset how did you embrace that mindset? Was it because you started like the running thing?
It was. And actually, it wasn't initially intuitive to me. But
Right.
after I think it was like the fourth day of my running journey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was like doing my second run around the block, and I was in such bad shape at the time that like a 5-minute run was I was kind of getting winded. It's
Right.
crazy to think about that now, but on the fourth day, I was feeling really good for just doing something, and it made me realize that this is all about small, consistent changes and doing enough where you feel like doing it again and you feel good for doing it.
Yes. I love that. So this point that you mentioned from your coach, how to age well. How did you attack this journey, if that makes sense? What did you do to put up this weight, muscle mass, bone density, just flip the lifestyle around? How did you go by doing that for the rest of the people your age listening?
Yeah. So I entered my friend John, who was asking me, do you want to get ripped?
Mm-hmm.
So PJ, who I just mentioned, the three of us entered this body transformation competition.
Okay.
And so you had to take before pictures. That's the one that I have on X. So we took those pictures and we started. And like a week in, I get this call from John, and he is chewing me out. And he's like, why? I thought you were serious about this. What are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a little lost.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're supposed to be logging your food. I don't see that you're logging your food in the app.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
oh, okay. I didn't know any of this. Let's talk about all the stuff that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he recounts the story a lot. And I remember it. I remember just telling him, just tell me exactly what to do and I will do it. And so we spent like 2 hours on the phone.
Wow.
And he was running me through like all of the macros, like what I need to do for macros. he ran me through like sample meals and things that he would eat. I think he actually sent me his like weekly grocery list. And so I just bought what he was doing
Mm-hmm.
and started logging my calories. And even then, like I wasn't perfect. There would be days I would forget to do it, or wouldn't do it, the full day. But probably about 3 weeks in, I was like nailing it. And so he um, just told me, train 3 times a week at the gym, keep your protein high, take at least 10,000 steps per day,
Mm-hmm.
and drink 100 ounces of water. And so I just focused on doing those 4 things consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, I remember texting him and saying, "Hey, would it be a benefit if I walked more?" He's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, absolutely, it would."
Mm-hmm.
And so I bumped the steps up to like 17,000,
That's not bad.
and in 13, it was like 11 days. And I could send you this picture, but in 11 days, I started seeing abs.
Wow.
And I was like, this is crazy. This
It
is the
is.
coolest
Wow.
thing ever. And so I think what can be really motivating, because it is far easier in terms of, or faster to get results, I think, if you start with like trying to strip your fat away, because you'll start seeing abs and this
Mm-hmm.
body that was hidden below.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so motivating
Yes.
to start seeing that. And, once you do, it becomes a lot easier to do things like, go to the gym, because you start imagining what these muscles will look like, when they're bigger and when you're stronger. So yeah, I think starting there can be a really big
Mm-hmm.
hack, because it's just so motivating.
If you were to take this journey again, would you do something differently? I mean, this is inspired by a post I did the other day on this exactly.
I think there was a period. I think the only thing that I might do differently. So I had the results like blew me away. I could not believe the results that I got in this
Mm-hmm.
first competition.
Fuck,
I
I don't
was
think anyone can believe it.
I was apparently considered as a finalist, although we're not really sure. But I was just so motivated, and the next year, so beginning of this year, I wanted to gain more muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and realized that I didn't really have the knowledge for how to kind of break out of my plateau.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
so I knew I needed to find kind of a coach that specialized in hypertrophy, and didn't really find that coach until like 5 months later. But I think that's probably the only thing that I would do differently
Mm-hmm.
is, when you realize you're kind of hitting a wall on your goals,
Mm-hmm.
maybe to seek out somebody who can help take you to that next level.
Right.
There's no substitute for finding somebody who's experienced and has a playbook, and then just being able to leverage that playbook.
Mm-hmm.
That is the fastest way that I think that you can get results.
I love
Is
that.
just finding somebody who you can leverage their 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and you get that today rather than
In 20 years, yeah.
in 20 years like it took them.
So during this journey, where or how'd you come by health Twitter?
I've been kind of on Twitter previously, but mostly writing about tech and product. And at some point in time, I got back on there and started finding some people to follow
Mm-hmm.
in health. And then I kind of started writing about my own journey,
Mm-hmm.
and started learning so much new stuff on there.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's probably around March of last year that
Wow.
I started you're kind of really getting into health Twitter.
Mm-hmm. So in just a year, what are you currently experimenting? I mean, you have N1 in your bio. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's your current lifestyle?
Yeah. So current lifestyle, I train 5 days a week in the gym. So that's for like strength and hypertrophy. So I do a split where it's like back, chest and shoulders, legs, arms, and then accessory.
Back is 1 day.
Back is 1 day. Yeah.
Chest, shoulders, accessories, legs,
And arms.
and arms.
Yeah. And so I do that 5 days. I try to get 10,000 steps a day. And then I just try to nail my calories every day and my macros every day and my micros. Micros are so
Right.
important.
Huge.
Yeah. So I track that every day. And so those are the things that I kind of start each day with a checklist,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what I need to do. Like today, I'm going into the gym for accessory. I know that I need to get 10,000 steps.
Okay.
I know that I need to hit my macro targets. I know I need to hit my water target. And then today, I also have some cardio.
Mm-hmm.
So I do cardio like 4 days a week in addition to the steps.
What's this extra cardio you do?
So right now, it's really low intensity. So it's like zone 1, zone 2. I do it on a Carol bike.
Okay.
Which is primarily known for like rehit, doing
Okay.
the hit, but it also has this great feature where you can just free ride and set the wattage.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to just set the watts is pretty amazing because you can just dial in your heart rate.
Okay.
So I try to stay right at kind of the low zone 2, high zone 1, right around that area.
Where do you track it?
So I track it. I use a heart rate monitor that connects to the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a VO2 max test.
Okay.
And in that VO2 max test, it showed me like my ventilatory threshold 1, which is where the point at which you kind of stop oxidizing fat and start oxidizing more glucose.
Okay.
And so it has basically all of my zones in there, all the heart rate zones.
Okay.
Based on the test. So I use, I kind of have those on a sheet, and then that's what I use to guide the training.
Okay. What does accessory training look like? How long do you take for that? What?
Oh, for the strength training or?
Yes, when you do accessories, what does that mean? Like, what do you do?
Oh, accessory. Okay.
Yes.
So accessory is kind of like all of the muscles that aren't really major muscle groups. So forearms is an example.
Okay.
I'll do forearms. I'll do calf.
Neck.
Another set of calves. I do those on leg day too.
Okay.
But I'll hit those again. So it's just kind of like all the smaller muscle groups.
Mm-hmm. How do you train? Like, is it high volume? Is it high intensity? Is it both?
It's both.
Okay.
So I do really really high volume. It's probably going to be 16 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So it's pretty high volume, and then I train every time I go into the gym. I'm like setting out to hit a PR.
Beautiful.
So every time I go in there, I'm either going to do one more rep than I did last time, or I'm going to do a higher weight. And so I kind of go in with that mindset.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
And then I try to train, almost to failure with like 1 to 2 reps in reserve for every set. I try to get to one or 2 reps in reserve or straight failure on my last set.
Mm-hmm.
Like yesterday, I was doing close grip bench and training by myself, and I took that to failure. So I had to crawl out of the safety bars.
Right. Interesting. So I'm just curious for back. What do? You do like upper, lats, traps, and lower back as well?
Yeah, exactly. So
Wow.
I'll do and traps too.
Yes.
So I'll do traps. I'll do kind of a rowing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do pull downs,
Mm-hmm.
pull ups,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll do rack pulls for the lower back.
Okay, so there's like a mix between strength, hypertrophy. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
How does food look like? What's your diet?
So Basically, my diet is really around trying to eat the most nutrient dense foods.
Okay.
And so everything is kind of centered on that. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to maximize nutrients through food. I try to minimize anti-nutrients, and I track everything in chronometer.
Yes.
And so that's basically where I track all my micros and macros, and I try to keep track of that during the day. And I have a rough plan going in.
Mm-hmm.
And then on anti-nutrients, I think that's really important
Mm-hmm.
to consider. So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I'll eat oatmeal, and I love oats. My body does great with them, especially for like my lipids. They do wonders for that.
Really?
Yeah, they
Okay.
do. I just seem to do better when I eat them. But oats have anti-nutrients, so there are phytates in
Yes.
them, and then also there's a lot of oxalate
Mm-hmm.
in oats. So I buy sprouted oats because that's going to enhance the bioavailability. It's going to eliminate some of the anti-nutrients,
Mm-hmm.
and then I cook it, which will greatly reduce the oxalate. And then the last thing that I'll do is I'll have it with calcium, because calcium will bind to oxalate in the gut. So I'm always trying to think about any anti-nutrients that might be in the food, and then how can you mitigate those, either through like adding calcium, or cooking, or soaking, or sprouting, those kind of
Okay.
things.
That's super interesting. That's also why oxalate's bind into calcium in bones, right? And that's why
Yeah.
okay, it's super
Yeah.
interesting. How much calcium do you take with your oats?
Usually I'll put like 2 scoops of protein powder in there. I think off the top of my head, it's like 600,
That's
between
great.
4 and 600 milligrams of calcium,
Okay.
in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I think I haven't done the calculations, but it's probably more than
Mm-hmm.
enough to bind.
Yes, I love that. So with your macros and your diet, I mean, I've seen you post a lot about supplements as well, so I'm curious about that. What are you trying right now, and for what reasons?
Yeah. So I think about supplements in kind of like 3 broad categories.
Okay.
So the first one is any nutrients that you're missing. So that's the first thing to
Mm-hmm.
clear. The second one is any interventions that you're doing, any targeted interventions. And then the third one is any kind of like performance enhancers.
Okay.
So for nutrients, I think one thing that can be really helpful is to check your genetic status,
Okay.
because there are a lot of genes that can impact how you absorb nutrients, and then also like how much of those nutrients you should get. So, for example, I'm MTRR and VDR. And so MTRR is going to impact my ability to absorb B12 and then also folate. So I need the
Whoa.
methylated versions of those. I need a lot higher dose of B12 and a lot higher dose of folate. And then VDR is going to be the vitamin D receptor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also need like really high levels of vitamin D. So I think knowing your genes, and then targeting nutrition around those can be really kind of a game changer. And then I also try to get nutrients that can be hard to get from food in
Sure.
kind of the quantities you need. So I think vitamin A is a really great example of that. You
Really?
can get beta carotene in vegetables. So you can eat sweet potatoes and get a ton
Yes.
of beta carotene, but 40% of the population has genes that will limit the amount of beta carotene that can convert to retinol, which is the form of vitamin A that our body uses. So to find retinol in food form, it's like liver, it is eggs, it could be milk. So
And
that
it's
one can
super
be
abundant in fruit.
uh, not in the retinol form.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's plenty of beta carotene in vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
broccoli,
Mm-hmm.
sweet potatoes, things like that. Vitamin K2 is another one
Okay.
that's really important. So K1 is like really abundant in vegetables, but K2 can be kind of hard to get in sufficient quantities. So I'll take you can find K2 in like natto, or like goose liver is really high in it. So that's another one that can be hard to get. So I'll supplement with K2. I do about a milligram, which is pretty high dose. You probably only need about 200 micrograms of it per day,
Oh,
which
wow,
would be
that's
like
how it is.
a serving of natto.
Mm-hmm.
Biotin is another one that is really important because
Is that
it
B4?
is B7, I believe.
Okay.
So biotin, incredibly important for the breakdown of leucine.
Mm-hmm.
And so leucine will create what's called MCC that feeds into the Krebs cycle. And the demand, because it's breaking down leucine, if you're eating more protein and getting more leucine, you need more biotin to break that down. So I'll take about 250 micrograms of that, or 300 micrograms of that per day.
Do you do a complex, or do you just take your B vitamins separately?
I take a complex called B-,
Okay.
and it's made for people who are MTRR. It's by
Really?
so it has all the B vitamins except for folate and B12.
Wow. Okay.
But it has everything else, and I think it has like 500 micrograms of biotin, so plenty of biotin. And you don't want to get too much of a lot of these, so you want to get the right therapeutic dose, and you don't want to be blasting yourself with too much of these. Molybdenum is another one that it can be kind of hard to get in sufficient doses. That's really important for like detoxification of protein. And so if you don't get enough molybdenum over time, you can that can cause problems. So I'll take that. And
magnesium.
I think that's it. What's that?
Magnesium.
Magnesium, yeah. I take magnesium too. It's like that's a no-brainer.
That's the health Twitter standard.
Yeah. Hard to get too much magnesium.
What did you say was number 2 for the supplements besides missing nutrients?
The second one is like interventions.
Okay. What are you doing for the interventions?
I have another genetic thing called ApoE. And so that impacts cholesterol transport.
Right.
And really kind of the disposal of cholesterol, as I understand it. It's kind of like imagine a subway where nobody gets off at the stops and it just starts filling up. So that's kind of like, a rough analogy for ApoE.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm doing a lipid intervention, includes nattokinase. It includes a psyllium husk, K2, and a couple other things.
I imagine you're like trying to eat a lot of potassium.
Yeah. Oh, glad you brought that up. Potassium is like a really important one too. We kind of grew up, we evolved in this environment that was potassium rich and kind of sodium poor. That's why when you hear all these things like, is that person worth their salt? Because people used to get paid in salt.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Not rare. But potassium was abundant.
Yes.
So we probably need about 5 grams or so of potassium.
Oh man, that quote you just shared on Solid, I feel like you're gonna love what I'm working on. It's a hydration.
Really?
It's a hydration product, but it's stupid high in both things.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
It's one, I'm sure, as you know, manages the intracellular water. The other one's the extracellular water. So you want to have the proper gradient.
Yes. What about performance enhancements?
So performance enhancers, I think, mostly in terms of like, how do I maximize my workout?
Okay.
So if training is the most important thing you can do from a stimulus standpoint, then how do you kind of ensure that you can get the best stimulus?
Okay.
So to me, that involves a couple different things. One is, can you get the vasodilation? that's going to give you like a really good pump, and also like help deliver things like collagen into your joints. And so for that, I do tadalafil, which is
Yes, I've seen.
prescription used for erectile dysfunction, but it's a really good vasodilator. So I use that in small dose. I
Are
mix
there any
in.
like side effects for that?
Some people can experience side effects, like headache is a really common one.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are side effects that you should be aware of. But in the lower doses, like I'm taking the lowest possible dose of that, it's less common.
Okay. Okay.
So I mix that with citrulline,
Okay.
which is a precursor. It's used for nitric oxide. So that really helps, works synergistically with the tadalafil, and you just get these great pumps. So I'll do also a gram of salt, which is a lot, but also great for pumps and exercise performance.
A gram of salt or a gram of sodium? Sorry to interrupt.
A gram of sodium.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, or NaCl, I should say. So it is salt.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. And then I'll do beta alanine, which is known for exercise performance. I'll do some L-tyrosine for mental performance, some alpha GPC.
Okay.
So that is a form of choline that will cross the blood-brain barrier. So I use that, and then that is 500 milligrams of L-carnitine.
Okay.
So it also helps with exercise performance. There's some thinking that it might upregulate androgen receptors.
Super interesting.
And I inject that. So I inject it intramuscularly. And the
Yes.
reason why, so you can do the oral as well. You just need, it has like 20 something percent bioavailability when you take it orally. So you just need a much higher dose. You need to be taking it in like 2-3 gram range. But when you do that, it has the impact of what's called TMAO.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, which has been associated with certain cancers. So that's why I do it. I inject it because you avoid the TMAO that way. And then for my intra workout, I'll basically make kind of like sugar water.
Yes.
So I just do a couple scoops of Gatorade. I'll probably swap that out at some point for something that doesn't have.
You're gonna swap it off with my product.
Oh, really? All right. You got me excited.
Oh man, you're making me excited with what you're sharing.
Cluster dextrin.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a like highly branched dextrin. I'll use that too, and then a little L-glutamine. I'll throw that in, and then 10 grams of creatine.
Intra.
And yeah, so I do that all intra, and that seems to work really well.
I can imagine.
And then 2 tablespoons of raw honey I'll take before I go too.
So how much sugar is that? Like 20 grams?
I think it probably works out to about 100 grams of carbs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yes.
But
you must have the most incredible workouts though.
Yeah, the workouts are amazing.
Wow.
And the thing that gave me confidence in doing this, because generally we think of like, oh, sugar, we shouldn't do that. But I was wearing a CGM, and so that's a continuous glucose monitor for those who may not know. And I spiked my blood glucose. I was trying to figure out things that would spike it. And so I had these like really overcooked sweet potatoes. And then I went to the gym, and when I got there, my blood glucose was 160.
Whoa.
And after one set of leg press, it dipped down to 85.
Okay.
After a single set. And so that really changed my mind on that.
So you're extremely insulin sensitive.
I think so. Yeah. And the more you weight train, the more insulin sensitive, generally speaking, you'll get.
Yes.
Because it's going to enhance what's called the GLUT4. It's these receptors in your muscles that will kind of suck the glucose out of your bloodstream. And so that's basically what was happening when I was doing those leg presses is, those GLUT4 receptors just sucking that glucose out.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, I just know that I just feel better doing this. I haven't put a CGM on since I've been doing this intra workout, but I feel a lot better. Workouts are better, and I just really like it.
What
Yeah.
about, have you ever had like a blood test to see your insulin sensitivity?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does that look like?
It's very good. I can't
Okay.
remember the number off the top of my head, but
Makes sense, man.
I'll usually I think a good measure of that is HOMA IR.
Okay.
And so you basically there's a calculation for it. So you can either order it directly in a lab test, or you can just, I think I lost you there. Are you back?
Yes, I lost you there. Okay, I can hear you.
Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Are you there?
Oof. Greg, can you hear me?
Just one.
Greg?
There, we back?
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, I can.
Great. Sorry. A little
No worries.
some internet issues on my side.
No
So
worries.
let's see, where were we?
Insulin sensitivity.
Yeah. So you can either just order HOMA IR on a blood test, or you can order fasting glucose and fasting insulin and then calculate it yourself. But that's a really good measure of insulin sensitivity.
Okay. So one of the genes you shared, that I don't remember which one it was, but you're in need of high vitamin D, correct?
Yeah, that's VDR.
How do you play with your light environment?
Well, it's tough, being in Seattle, but especially this time of year when it gets into winter, it's just dark and gray. So it's something that I'm working on. But in my office, I'll just kind of show you this. I have a sun tunnel, like right above my desk, so that's natural light coming in. And then so I just try to, best I can, get as much light as I can. I'll try to walk outside as much as I can during the day. So it's usually like an hour or two. But I have a friend who has like completely nerded out on lighting. And so I'm probably going to get some different lights this winter.
Yes. Beautiful. Movement, you already shared. Exercise, your steps, diet, you already shared that. Water target, which is super interesting. What are you focused on with water target? Like, are you also focused with that on minerals? How does that look like?
So yeah, for water, I use a reverse osmosis. And I think there's kind of a school of thought that some people like want to put minerals back in. For me, I'm not too worried about that, because I know that I'm getting those minerals that would be in water elsewhere in my diet throughout the day. So I usually just drink the reverse osmosis just straight. And then I try to target around 100 ounces, 100 to 120. That seems to be good.
I think something that I see with your people who, I mean, my dad's gone on this journey as well, thank God, recently. And it not only just gives you more life by taking care of your health, but it's like you're hunting something. You're like on a mission,
Yeah.
How does that feel for you?
Oh, it's incredible.
Yes. What are you hunting?
Yeah. I wake up every day with kind of a purpose. I think it's given me kind of a new purpose.
Wow.
Which is like, how far can I take this? And what are the things that I thought about age that I no longer think?
Okay.
And I guess I don't know the answer to that question, but I want to find out.
Yes, I love it.
I want to find out, like, how strong can I get even in my late 40s? How fast can I get? How much can I alter my aerobic fitness? And so I'm just like really, really curious. And are all of these are all of these things that we thought were just givens of age, are they something else? Like, I'll give you one example.
Yes.
Everybody, or I shouldn't say everybody, but it's really common for people to think that certain things that are happening to them are
Mhm.
just them getting old and there's nothing they can do about it. And aches and pains are one of these things. And then I think injuries are another.
Okay. Yes.
So, what I believe, and I don't have any science to back this up, but just kind of like personal experience,
Yes.
is that I think a lot of the aches and pains are from probably having too much inflammation and not enough movement.
Sure.
And those things can be mitigated. And then I think for the injuries, usually it's not. If you're working out, it's very rarely is it going to be a muscle injury.
Right.
What
So
it,
more like a skeletal
yeah, or soft tissue. That's kind of
ligament.
what
Yeah.
breaks down. And so, is that because we, kind of get worse at collagen synthesis as we age?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 1% reduction per year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, can we reverse that just by getting enough collagen and then also getting enough circulation into our joints
Mm-hmm.
to reverse that? So I don't know the answer to that. I'm like
Yeah.
doing an intervention right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think I saw you posted copper peptides and BPC
yeah,
1.7. Beautiful.
yeah. So it's adding on to this protocol that I've been doing and seeing really big success with, which is
Mm-hmm.
the tadalafil, the L-citrulline for vasodilation, and then mixing that with 30 grams of collagen and then just a little vitamin C, like 80 milligrams, because you don't want so much that it's going to
Yeah. Then you're just.
impact the reactive oxygen species. You actually want reactive oxygen species after your exercise because that's what's going to force the adaptation. But if you have too much vitamin C, it can damper that.
Okay.
So, but I
didn't
started
know that.
doing that, and my soft tissue injuries just started going down. And my thinking was, if you take the collagen before you work out, you're going to get the circulation of the collagen into the places that need it. And
Mhm.
joints just have like not very good circulation in general, especially as you get older. So that was my thinking. And I had this, what really changed my mind was in May, I had this shoulder injury. And instead of laying off it and just stopping working
I
out,
think I remember you posted about
I was
this.
like, I'm gonna try something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna just take collagen and vitamin C and tadalafil before I work out. And instead of, I'm just gonna keep working out, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lower my weight until I'm just below my pain threshold. And it went away in 3 weeks. And something like that has never healed that fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. So,
Wow.
I think I may be onto something. I don't know,
I think you
but
are.
we will see. But I guess it's just that curiosity. Going back to
Mm-hmm.
your question of like, has it changed me? Yes, it has, because I think that I'm starting to realize that a lot of these things that we've just accepted as
Mm-hmm.
givens
Mm-hmm.
as we age may not be the case.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Kind of a little bit on the same topic. For kids my age, 18, who wanna get started, want to feed these desires, go against the grain, etc. Like, what advice would you give? And I guess to make it easier, like, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh boy, having that opportunity would just be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably one of the first things that I would talk about is safety,
Mm-hmm.
because you see a lot of people posting all sorts of different stuff
Yes.
online, and it's really important to be safe. Even with things that seem like they should be safe, you just have to make sure that you're kind of going in with eyes wide open and not doing anything until you have like reasonable confidence that what you're going to be doing is safe.
Yes.
So I think that's absolutely number one. And let me give you a really quick example
Please.
of things that could go wrong. So one time I like had no depression, or it wasn't depression, but like I had no motivation,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of feeling a little down in the dumps, and could not figure out why. And ultimately, my doctor helped me trace that back to low copper, of all
Okay.
things. And copper is a cofactor in a whole bunch of neurotransmitters. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're low in it, you're going to have some issues like I
Mm-hmm.
was experiencing. And we think that happened because I was over supplementing zinc, of all things. And zinc can
Yeah.
deplete copper. And
Okay.
so even you think that zinc would be like the safest thing to take. You
Yes.
just take a zinc supplement, but even things that like that can have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, yeah, just going in with a lot of safety in mind would be number one. And then two, I think it'd just be like focus less on the outcome
Mm-hmm.
metrics. So instead of thinking about, gosh, I really want to gain 20 pounds of muscle. I want to look ripped. I want to do this. I want to do that. I think try to focus more on what are the habits that are going to get you there.
Yes.
So, what are the habits that somebody who has 20 more pounds of muscle, and then how do you focus on making those habits? Because if you're a person with those habits, gaining that 20 pounds of muscle is going to be inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just focusing on that habit formation and lifestyle. And then I think probably the last thing is, this may sound super weird on the surface, but making sure you have the right friend group.
Yes.
And it can be very easy at any age, but particularly when you're young, to uh, you want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to do healthy things, they're act in healthy ways, and that they're people that you kind of want to be more like,
Mm-hmm.
that would be better for you. um, and then just really developing and investing in those relationships,
Yes. I
because
love
if you
that.
have, it's gonna be like 10 times healthier or easier to be healthy if you have friends who are healthy.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, I 100% can relate to that, and I appreciate these points. What has the work you do taught you about the world so far?
Oh, in fitness or in my professional life,
Maybe
or
both.
both?
Yeah.
I think in fitness and kind of health, I think what's really kind of opened my eyes is that I think a lot of our issues, especially as we age, can be pretty complex, and not everybody has the answers.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard to go to a doctor and figure everything out. And it's not, I'm not saying anything bad about doctors or anything. Doctors are
No,
wonderful.
I completely agree.
But if you're going in for a 15 or 20-minute visit, you're not going to have time to go to the level of detail that you may need to kind of fix all of your health problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think, really kind of embracing acquiring new knowledge,
Okay.
understanding more about your own biomarkers and
Yes.
your own symptoms, and then
Right.
along with your doctor or somebody who can help you with the safety issues, like really kind of formulating your own hypotheses.
Mm-hmm.
And you know instead of having a 20-minute doctor visit, try going in there and saying, hey, I've been having, what do you think of this?
Mm-hmm.
Or I analyzed my genes on Genetic Genie or whatever. I found out that I'm MTRR, and I've been thinking about doing more B12 and more folate. What are your thoughts on
Okay.
that? And even kind of taking those in papers, because they might not have everything in front of them. But if you can find somebody who is excited about those questions and is willing to be open-minded
Mm-hmm.
and look at the things and say, oh yeah, you're probably right. Why don't you try it?
Mm.
It looks safe to me, like why not try it?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can find somebody who is willing to work with you and partner with you on your health,
Yes,
that can just be a huge unlock.
I love that. Yeah, that's huge. And I hate perfectly at the right time for me. I'm dealing with some stomach stuff, and I need a
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, Greg, for my last question, what brings you most joy in life?
I think family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my daughter
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
love
just
that.
the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that you're gonna make memories with.
Mm-hmm.
Those are gonna be the things that I imagine myself thinking about when I'm on my deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say like family.
I love that, Greg. Beautiful, dude. That was a hell of an episode.
I appreciate that.
Yes, I was so excited to record this, and sorry for all those changes.
Oh, no worries at all.
Beautiful, bro. I appreciate you again taking your time to share what you've shared today. Just taking your time to speak with me. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yes. So perfect. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Take care.